Hello again. I have a piece of hazel tree here that I've had lying around for a few years, and I thought it'd be nice to make a sword. So I've cut one of the pieces. Here it is here. Still got the bark on it. And with the shape I'd like to make one of these Iberian Falcata. I believe they're based originally on a Celtic design that then was around in Iberia, Spain, pre-Romans, and it's like a straightened out kukri. And on the colour photo this was brown wood, and then this looked like brass or gold. So I thought maybe for the handle I could actually use, I've got some wild olive here which has some nice stripes in it, and I have some brass that I could maybe use to try and inlay these pieces here. So I'm going to draw up the design on here and then start cutting. So I've cut out the blade. I like the shape. I cut it out using a coping saw. This is good because if you loosen here you can move the blade around at different angles, so it's good to get into corners. I then took the dragon's teeth, mostly the fine side here, and then I use this on my drill press. You could use an ordinary drill and just put the drill, hold the drill between your knees or in a vise. And then I've just gone over with some 400, I think this is, just to smooth the edges. So now I need to think about doing the handle. I maybe will cut out a piece of that and then cut it down the middle because I think it's too fat. So let's do that now. I've cut two pieces out here, and the idea is I'm going to glue everything together here. They're just cut out roughly at the moment. I'm going to glue everything together here like that. And then I'm going to shape, once I've glued it all, I'm then going to shape it, and that allows me to cut down the nose of the dragon here. I've cut my thumb, not to worry. It allows me to cut down the nose of the dragon and shape it, and then be able to put the metal on and the metal on here, and then I'll cut these back here so that they fit on the blade. So that's where I'm going next. I was working with these two handles here, and I wasn't really very pleased with them. I didn't like the way when I put them together I could see the tang here and I could see the tang in there, and it just looked really scruffy. So what I then did was I cut a brand new piece. This is ash. Cut a hole in the bottom. I narrowed my tang down. This sword isn't going to be used for hitting people, so it doesn't matter, it's got a narrow tang. And then I've fitted it like this so that it's straight on there. So I'm now going to cut this out, and it's wide enough that I can carve down the dragon's head and I think this will be much better. I'm not seeing any of the tang in the back there or in here, and it'll just look a lot neater and tidier, and just to fit the bill better. I can also carve this down here either side so that it meets here. So that's what I'm going to do now. I've thinned the head down now. I've thinned it down here around. I've sanded it all off with a view to cutting out brass to fit on like that on the head. So I need to cut out both sides, and then I'll cut out both sides for down here, and then I'll do some of the engraving on it. I've done some work on these two dragon's heads. I've realised that trying to work on solid brass is quite difficult. They kind of look like dragon's heads, and I think I'm going to stick at that for the time being. What I'm going to do is, I've narrowed this down. I'm going to araldite them on here like this, and then I've decided to, I've cut out some pieces of ebony here, and I'm going to araldite them on like that, so that will be the handle. I'm not putting brass on here because it's just really difficult, and I don't have the tools or the ability at the moment to make something decent, so I'm going to leave that for a later sword. So I'm going to araldite all these on now, and then I'll be able to carve everything here and neaten it all off. So that's where I'm going next. Well, I've finally finished. I glued the ebony pieces on to the side of the handle. I glued the dragon's heads on. I didn't like the colouring of the ash, so I stained that with leather dye. It also hides some of the places down here where it's hadn't gone so well with the epoxy on the wood, so you can see it there now. And then I've glued the blade in, so it's come out okay. Had thought of giving up yesterday because it just wasn't working right. When I'd carved it all, I realised that there's no parallel lines. As you can see here, these bits here aren't parallel with those bits, so when I was epoxying the head on and I was putting clamps on, everything kept moving because of there was no parallel lines. So and then it had gone hard, so I found that I had to carve a lot of the brass down, because when I'd been hammering it also, it had become bigger than the wood, so it's actually thinner than it the face is originally than it originally started. And yeah, I think I need to do a lot of practice with beating on brass, thick brass. But overall it's turned out better than I expected. The picture that I was working on was this one, which was very ornate. And it isn't, I had thought of doing this all in brass and everything, and the way it's turned out, yeah, maybe I bit off more than I could chew. And I haven't done any fullers in the blade. I wasn't sure how I was going to do them without making a mess. But I do like the shape of the blade. The hazel branches come out really nice. The finish is not too bad. It feels nice, and yeah, I've learned a lot from that. So there's my Iberian Falcata inspired sword. Hope that would encourage you to try something, and don't give up when things become difficult. Try and finish it and then move on and do something better next time. So thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed that.